So a lot of you may know that Kraven killed all the villains from Spider-Man PS4, and it caused a lot of people to ask how he killed them all off. And I think the one interesting thing that came out of this is, would Kraven survive Spider-Man PS4? And while we can just simply end the conversation by saying that Kraven studies all his prey before fighting and he had a lot of prep time, as well as for the fact that he pretty much also killed Peter the first time that they saw each other. And I know the Peter nerfing fans aren't gonna like that one, but it's just fact. So in this hypothetical, Kraven will be the same and act the same as he does, and any deviations that I make are just there to just make the story flow better. And no, Kraven will not have access to any of Peter's tech. Instead, he will have his 100 as well as each ally, as well as some allies to help him throughout the story, like Yuri, May, and Norman. They will treat Kraven the exact same way that they treat Peter. So, with that out of the way, on his hunt to find someone that can kill him in a fight, does Kraven survive Spider-Man PS4? So the opening would start out the exact same, and Kraven will waste no time and detain Kingpin and go to check out Mount Otto, and will meet up with Yuri, and she tells him about the police towers. But for the sake of the story, we'll just say that he'll set up fires in each of the police towers locations, just like the Flames Were Lit mission in the game. And next, Kraven will go to check in on Feast, but once again, for the sake of the story, you can just imagine that Kraven bought a mansion and May and Lee are working there, and Kraven would learn about the break-in at the Fisk Museum. Now for this, Sasha Kravinoff's role is going to be a little bit complicated, so for the sake of the story, we'll just say that she told Kraven about Devil's Breath, similar to how Calypso told Kraven about Spider-Man from Spectacular, and it doesn't really change the story, so I'll leave that up to you. So he would beat up the demons and would know about Devil's Breath thanks to his wife, and would have the hunters patrolling the city looking for any signs of the demons. And after meeting up with Otto, Kraven sees that his experiments are going wrong, and Kraven would take a mental note of Ock's anger and would then go to stop Stalker's bank robbery, and would detain and would possibly interrogate him to get more information on who hired him. Next, he would meet up with Norman and would learn more about Norman and Otto's past. And next, Kraven would get a call from Yuri, and in this phone call, she would obviously tell him about Jefferson Davis's investigation near the docks over at Fisk Warehouse. And this is when the demons attack and steal Kingpin's weapons, with Kraven chasing them down and using the grapple on Hunter APC to stop them while leaving some hunters behind to help out Jeff. Since Kraven has a lot of money, he would meet up with May and would probably sneak her probably like a couple $300. And with trust between himself and Jeff tells Kraven that the demons are attacking the Fisk construction site. And since Kraven doesn't have any web shooters, he wouldn't be able to connect a piece of the helicopter onto the crane. So instead, he would just jump in his copter and would knock out both of the drivers and would land the helicopter in the city. And then he would try to intimidate one of the demons to find out who their leader is, but instead he leaves them for the police. The very next day, Jeff's award ceremony is bombed by Mr. Negative. So for this, Kraven would tell his hunters to prepare for the ceremony, and the start of it still plays out, and Kraven would have a hunter dressed up as a normal civilian and would use a knockout drug on Negative and knock out the bomber, similar to how he caught Miles in the game. And with this, Negative is captured early and the ceremony would go on, which means that Jeff doesn't die, and that also means that Norman doesn't hire Silver Sable. Kraven would then tell Yuri that he has Lee and that he's the leader of the demons, but with lack of evidence, they can't move in on him yet. Kraven would then go to check out Lee's office at Feast and would find his hidden room with writings and voice recordings proving his involvement, as well as for the fact that he's also leader of the demons, as well as what happened almost at City Hall and why he hates Norman. Now with this, Kraven is also very skilled and masterful, so he would already know that the hidden room has traps. So we're just going to say that he ignores the pressure plate entirely, since he always comes prepared. And once Kraven gets out of the building, Sasha or a hunter would tell Kraven that Negative has escaped and that recapture is an option. And maybe at some point Lee swaps cars, and if he does, a hunter would just let Kraven know that he's tracking him, just like how they did with Black Suit Peter. And Kraven would meet up with Otto the very next morning and would see him blame Norman when things don't work out the way that he wanted to. And Kraven would take a mental note of this, and next Sasha would tell Kraven about Tombstone, which he would come back to later before his database would give him information on Morgan Michaels and his location, just like how he found out where Connors lives in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Plus, this would save Kraven a lot of time instead of him having to go to Standish's house or him finding Dr. Delaney at the Halloween party. Plus, he would get to Morgan Michaels and get Devil's Breath before the demons do. And with that, Kraven would place Michaels under police custody, and if Kraven hasn't caught Negative yet, he would do so now and would put him in the unbreakable cage from Spider-Man 2. Seeing that he knows everything ties back to Oscorp, Kraven would have his recon team send him the information and would find out the truth about Devil's Breath, Norman's involvement, how Negative got his powers, where Harry is, and possibly the symbiote, all the evidence to get Norman arrested if leaked anonymously. And after finding out the truth about Devil's Breath, he would just wear it as a necklace, just like how he does with the Lizard Cure in Spider-Man 2. And with Lee caught early, that means that the attack on Grand Central never happened, which means that with this new setup of events, Otto would show Kraven his octopus arms. And again, I could see Kraven seeing Ock as a potential threat and the threat that his arms pose. And honestly, I feel like it's hard to believe that Kraven wouldn't consider Ock the best of the best at this point and wouldn't want to fight him. But I highly don't think that Ock would even know that Kraven has already set out to do what he wanted to do. Probably he keeps this information on Harry and the symbiote, and if it does leak, Norman might lose his job as mayor or resign like he does in the game. And on top of that, Ock might not go with his original plan, since Kraven already stopped that from happening already, and Kraven might already know that Ock's planning a raft breakout and would have his hunters prepared overlooking the raft from the city. And with this, Kraven will respond back in full force, and this is where we would see his 6 months of prep come into play. For Kraven versus Scorpion, it would go just like how we saw in the game, since Kraven did use the rarest flower in the world to make himself immune to Scorpion's poison and would slice Scorpion's stinger off and kill him. Next is the Vulture, with Kraven saying that he was going to be a problem for him, but he still managed to clip his wings. So for this, Kraven would just jump on him and kill him, ripping the cockpit from him and keeping it as a trophy. Now, next is Electro, with Peter saying that he scares him the most and even sees him as an Avengers level threat, along with the vest he got from Ock bringing him up in power. So for this, Kraven would likely use a lot of water, or at the very least would simply just overload him, giving him way too much power for Ock's vest that he gave him to handle, just like how Andrew does in TASM 2. Now for Rhino, this one's going to be a little bit tricky. So for this, Kraven would use some sort of inspiration from the Underground, since Finn did use Underground tech in Miles Morales, and it was proved to be very effective against Rhino, even in his Roxxon form. So for anyone that's saying that this wouldn't work, here's the words from Insomniac's narrative director.
He watched from afar as the events of the first 2 games occurred.
And with that, the raft is secure, and Yuri would ask Kraven if he knows who's behind it, and Kraven would go after Doc Ock, and their fight would more than likely happen at the raft. And with everything Kraven would have known about Doc Ock and his weakness, Kraven would secure a pretty easy W if he plays his cards right. So that means that based on Kraven's skills and his 6 months of preparation, Mr. Negative is caught early, the train station attack never happens, the raft is secure, Devil's Breath doesn't get into the city, May doesn't die, and Jeff doesn't die. And again, this is all under the basis if Kraven had 6 months to prepare like he does in Spider-Man 2, and he wouldn't deem any of the other villains worthy and would be waiting for Venom to give him a good and satisfying hunt. Now, for the City Never Sleeps DLC, I could see that playing out differently, but almost generally the same. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I had a fun time making it, and without a doubt, let me know what other videos you guys want to see in the future. I'm thinking Kraven versus the events of Batman Arkham Knight next. So without a doubt, hope you guys enjoy this video. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.